Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome back to my Saturday Hodgepodge, my weekly wrap-up of reading, BookTube things, anything else I want to talk about. I've been off this week. You may know that I had taken a part-time job working as a tutor for reading at a middle school, and I worked about 3 days a week. This week they did what they call interim testing, which is all part of the standardized testing mania that we still embrace here in the state of Texas. Believing you can measure education by responses of a bunch of 5th and 6th graders to multiple choice questions. But, aside from that, that's been my employment. But this week they were doing testing, so I've been off, which means I've gotten a little bit more reading done, a little bit more other stuff done than I probably normally do. So I thought I would start off today by talking about my reading. Sometimes I put off the reading till the end. So the big news is, for me, reading this week is I finished Jon Fosse's Septology. I finished A New Name, the third volume, or the third book in what is a 7-volume series about an artist, a Norwegian artist named Asle, and his doppelganger, and his memories of his life and of the other Asle's life. It's just, these books to me are almost undescribable. I believe Sean from the channel Travel or Journey Through Stories. Oh, geez, I just forgot the name of your channel. I'll put a picture or a link or something up here. I believe he's planning on a review of the Septology, which will just be great because he's pretty brilliant. And I won't try to review these because to me they're almost indescribable. I put these on the list of books that I love, even though I don't fully understand. I did attempt a review of the first volume or first book in the Septology called The Other Name, which I'll leave a link to in the cards at the end of the video. But it's just was brilliant and moving and emotional and beautiful and everything the other books have been. This one was, and it kind of wraps them up. And I would like to say I was satisfied with the ending, but I think what the truth is I'm not satisfied that there was an ending. Because I wanted to just keep on reading these. By the way, this book is also, I noticed, is in the shortlist for the International Booker Prize, and hopefully they're including, even though it's just this one book, hopefully they're including and thinking about the whole Septology. But anyway, I devoted all my time in reading to that. For I became a monogamous reader for the first 2.5 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, so I could just focus on enjoying and loving that book, and I truly did. And then after that, I went on to some other things. I think I've mentioned before that, I know I've mentioned before, why am I acting like I don't know what I've said on my own channel when I do? I've mentioned before that I'm always curious about the Republic of Consciousness Book Prize, and the books they chose, and so I bought 4 books. I bought e-versions of 4 books that are on the Republic of Consciousness Prize, and I read 2 of them this week. Both of them were really short story collections. The first is called Dark Neighborhood by Vanessa Onwuemezi. By Vanessa Onwuemezi. And I read it and I thought it was really interesting. I thought some of it was really very good. Like most short story collections, some of the stories for me work better than the others. Ironically, the story that gives the book its name, I didn't think was that great. Kind of a utopian, a dystopian tale, which could be just in the near future, maybe with a climate disaster causing the problem. I thought that was one of the least successful. But there are stories in the book which I thought were great. One of the stories, whose name I just forgot, essentially involves, is told from the perspective of a man dying of a drug overdose. All the stories involve death. Every single one kind of centers around death, and it kind of takes different approaches and different viewpoints of death, and death works into all the stories, but they're not really related necessarily other than that. And then there are also just, I thought, some really interesting recurring images in the stories. Things I just noticed that kind of don't link the stories together, but suggest that the author had some themes, some images that she wanted to repeat throughout the stories. Bowls of oranges, concentration on extended arms and hands, dead cigar butts. The color green is associated with death. The idea of breathing dust out of your lungs. Those things come up over and over again in the stories. I really thought that the collection as a whole was successful. You know, not great, not consistently good, but successful. And then I went on to read another short story collection, which was on the Republic Consciousness Prize's long list, and that's The Song of Youth by Montserrat Roig. These were translated from the Catalan. I believe the translator's name was Tiago Miller. But to be honest with you, in reading the stories, each one of the stories appears to have been translated by a different translator. These stories for me on the whole were less interesting, but more beautiful in lots of ways. And again, I have a hard time remembering the names of the story, but the opening story is about an old woman who's essentially in a hospital where she's surrounded by old people who are dying, and they expect her to die, and her kind of memories of her past and things like that, which sounds really kind of trite and set up, but it's really handled, I thought, really beautifully. There are two long stories. One is a long story, again, the name of which I can't remember, involving a friendship, I want to say it's almost a sensual friendship between two women who have a really brief and intense relationship, not a sexual relationship, but one that does involve touching and physical contact and those kind of things, that I thought was just really, really great, and kind of almost comparing their lives to one another and their husbands and their relationships and how those things fall apart. One of the women is, you know, a feminist kind of scholar, and the other is like a feminist by nature, and I thought that story was really interesting. There's some good stories in there. There's some occasional beautiful writing. The last story is the only story which is told from the point of view really of a male character, and I thought it was odd and strange and really well done, and a little unsettling and disturbing, but I thought the stories on the whole were good, so I would call this a successful story collection as well. You know, not great all the way through, not able to necessarily, not all the stories held my interest equally, but pretty good. So that's two of the, I think there were 10 books on the long list. I'm definitely going to read 2 more, hopefully next week. You know, April is I'm kind of devoted April to reading short books. And for the most part, that's exactly what I'm doing. And both of these books are less, I think, than 130 pages. So I'll go on to the next 2 books that I've already purchased that are part of the Republic Consciousness Prize long list. I also read my Scholastic book that I ordered, for my Scholastic book order form, and that was because of you, John Lewis, The True Story of a Remarkable Friendship. And it's exactly that. It's a story of a real friendship that sprung up between John Lewis, the congressman, civil rights icon, activist, hero, and a young man who wanted to meet him. And it kind of mirrors a friendship that began between John Lewis and Martin Luther King Jr. And it is beautifully illustrated, and I just thought it was really good and enjoyable, and so I did read that. That also is a very short book because it's obviously a kid's book. And then I have still working on reading with the large group. I'm still working on reading The Price of the Ticket by James Baldwin. By the time you see this video, I should be finished. I only have 50 pages left. This has just been tremendously rewarding and just a great reading experience. It's not every single one of Baldwin's essays, but it's a collection that he put together, so the ones that he chose as being the most important, the ones he was the most proud of. The essays on the whole have been excellent. Not all of them equally interesting, and there have been 1 or 2 which I just thought that didn't exactly work for me. But the last 50 pages, I'll have read this by the time you see this, and be finished with this group read. Which I'll be honest with you, I will be happy to be finished with the book because I will feel like I have read a significant amount of James Baldwin's nonfiction. But sad to leave the group and have that over. And then I'm also buddy reading with Margaret Pinard. A Clearing in the Distance, Frederick Law Olmsted, and America in the 19th Century by Witold Rybczynski. I just loved this. The first 100 pages flew by for me. It's kind of, the author's style as a historian or biographer is kind of chatty, and he inserts himself in the story, which can be irritating. There's one part of it that didn't really work for me. the details, the information about life in the United States during the early 19th century, mid-19th century, I found to be really interesting, in some ways even more interesting than Olmsted himself at this point. In part, maybe this is because it's just such an easier and more stylistically pleasing work of history than Nuclear Folly was for me, which I read as a part of the BookTube prize, which I found to be overly detailed. This book has just been a real delight, and I think I'm liking it more than Margaret, but we had our first check-in, and that was great, so I'll continue reading that. And I think that's all my reading for this week. In addition to that, you may know, if you watch my channel, that I have been working on a writing project essentially the entire time that I've been on BookTube, and I finished the second draft, my second round of edits on the manuscript for that, and just to let you know, it is a work of history. It is essentially what I hope is a slightly different approach to a military unit history involving the military unit my great uncle was a part of during World War II. I completed the manuscript in the fall of 2020. I sent it out to beta readers, people who had offered or expressed interest in reading it. They read it, gave me their feedback, not always positive feedback, and I took that in, and I've been trying to make changes. I am not one of those people who is working hard to have a career as a writer, but I do write with the intent of getting published and having people read what I write. By the way, Steve Donahue has made recently some excellent videos, I thought, about writing. One was a writer starter kit, and one was a response to another AuthorTuber's video about essentially what it takes to be a writer. I thought both those were great. And there are a lot of the things he mentioned there which I can apply to myself. What I would say is that in terms of writing projects, I can get easily discouraged. And I'll be honest with you, the feedback I got from some of my beta readers was a little bit discouraging. And then looking at it and knowing how much work I still have to do, or still had to do, really slowed me down. And then I'm just lazy, and I like to procrastinate. So it took me about a year to work through that second round of edits. I have a proofreader set up, and I'm going to send this manuscript to her. She's not only capable and more than capable of proofreading it for grammatical things and other things, but she also has a background in history and an interest in the subject. So hopefully get more feedback from her. There are a few kind of minor things that I have to do, make sure dates are right, make sure my citations, I have all the citations I need. There are a few details I have to go back and look up that I just haven't filled in yet. But hopefully then I will be ready to see if there's anybody out there who wants to publish this, and if not, then think maybe about self-publishing. But I have reached another milestone there with my writing. Also, you may know that I am a big sports fan, and I think in my last Saturday Hodgepodge, the one before last, I talked about how I was just getting into cricket. Been watching the India Premier League matches every day. As a matter of fact, there's one on right now that I'm going to go watch, and that's been really enjoyable. But this week is for sports fans, I think. This week for me has been all about opening day in baseball, but I've been paying much more attention to the Masters. And you may know that the Masters golf tournament, Tiger Woods is playing again after, I think, something like 500 days of not being able to play golf after his car accident, which almost cost him his leg. And he's back, and I was thinking about this. I talked about Tiger Woods playing. My wife expressed some frustration with obsession about Tiger Woods, and I can understand that. And I'm not one of those people who elevates sports stars to hero status. I'm well aware of the humanity of sports stars or star athletes. I'm well aware of their humanity, and I don't think we have more. I think Tiger Woods is a great example of exactly how human athletes, star athletes, can be. But I do think there is something to be appreciated about being able to see someone who was the best at what they do, whatever it is, whether it's a gymnast or an ice skater or a writer or a painter or an actor, seeing somebody who's the best and them coming back and giving it another shot, to me, that's just a great narrative arc. And so I've been enjoying watching the Masters, and I plan on watching Tiger again this afternoon to see how he does. So I have been doing that. And then I've been watching a lot of BookTubes. Again, since I didn't work this week, I had a little more time than I normally have. And there are 3 videos I just want to draw your attention to. The first is a video from a channel that I follow, and the name of the channel is Renee KatzeBooks. And her video is about, are women only pushing for equality and prestigious jobs? Which I just thought was really great. She had been accused in another video in a commenter of, or not accused, but in another video she made on a similar topic, one of her commenters had said that women don't only push for prestigious jobs. That's why you don't see women, you know, as pipe fitters or welders or things like that. And this was kind of a response to that, which I just thought was excellent. And we had a good discussion in the comments field. Also, Greg over at Supposedly Fun has finally put out his video about Gone with the Wind, which he struggled with coming up with a review of, and I've done a review of, and he was very kind to me in his video, and I just thought his video was excellent. I think I can't imagine somebody looking at Gone with the Wind and thinking what he thinks about it, and being more fair to the book than he was. You know, I didn't feel any such compulsion to be fair to Gone with the Wind in my own video, but I'll leave a link to that and to Joe Renee's video down below. And then also, this has been, you know, BookTube Prize result reveal week. I've been watching a lot of people's BookTube Prize videos, and my favorite so far, and I don't mean any offense to anybody else, my favorite so far has been Heather, the Soggy Expat Booknerd's BookTube Prize vlog, in which she expresses a lot of frustration with the group she got, and she and I got the same group, and you may know that I was not particularly enamored of my group either, and so it was great and enjoyable in probably an awful way watching her video in which she expressed her frustration with some of those books. She and I did not necessarily agree on all of our rankings, but I just thought her video was great. I'll leave a link to all those videos down below. Anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So, as always, I look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.